Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this edition of 30 on Thursdays, our bi-weekly SharePoint webinar series. Go ahead and get started with a little housekeeping. For those of you joining us for the first time, 30 on Thursdays, as I mentioned, is a bi-weekly 30-minute webinar series that we've been doing for about 2.5 years now, where we cover all aspects of SharePoint, from user topics to developer topics and anything that will affect SharePoint. Our next webinar is coming up Thursday, August 15th. That's 2 weeks from today, and it's SharePoint Security Triage. So we're going to talk about SharePoint encryption, maybe some of the topical matters around what happened with the NSA and their SharePoint site, so won't want to miss that one. And you can get the full schedule of all of our upcoming webinars at sharepoint.protiviti.com/webinars. Today's session is being recorded, so if you have to duck out early, it'll be available on our website within probably the next 24 hours. And you can get the entire archive of past sessions at sharepoint.protiviti.com/archived webinars. And for today's session, we will use and save questions to the end, but we'll use the question window there and go to webinar. So go ahead and type your question in as Julie's talking, and we'll go ahead and go through those at the end. Some other online learning opportunities that we have. We have a whole list here, and you can get these on our website, of online training classes. This is more formalized training that goes from 3 hours in length up to 3 days in length. So we have the course schedule built out for the remainder of the year, and there's a whole slew of classes that you can take advantage of, and they're available on our website. We also have recorded all of our previous web-based training, at least the ones in the 3-hour format that you can purchase on our website. So without further ado, I'd like to get into today's session, which is Less Socially Awkward, the New Social SharePoint 2013. Julie Muccillo, who's a solution architect here at Protiviti, is going to be our presenter, and I'm Steve Witt, as always, be your moderator. I'm the Director of Training and Product here at Protiviti. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Julie.
Great, thanks, Steve.
There you go.
All right. Okay, is everyone good on getting started? Can everyone see the PowerPoint?
No, actually, I think I see your other screen, because I just see the go to webinar control panel and the presenter view of the PowerPoint.
All right, let's fix that.
Switch monitors. Nope, same thing.
1 second. That's very interesting. We'll give it a shot here. How's that?
Perfect. Yeah, I see the taskbar, display settings, and slideshow up above, and looks like a timer and everything.
Oh, actually, curious. Sorry, everyone. I think that's actually the opposite of what we want. So if I do this, can we see Let's Get Started?
No, I just see the I just see it. It's all zoomed in on the go to webinar control panel. It says mic and speakers and everything else.
All right. Well, let's just go to our other view then. No problem. Piece of cake. All right. Let's get started. Okay, great. So we'll just move along here. So I thought that something that we all should take into account on the whole new sort of social platforms, using social inside of a business environment. This quote really kind of spoke to me now, even though it's from one of the executives from Microsoft. I think it's really great. Just as email accelerated the pace of business in the 90s, enterprise social will be the driver of greater agility and transformation in the 21st century workplace. A lot of times there's a lot of sort of anxiety or sort of anxiousness about implementing something like a social platform for fear of what people might say, what people might do, what people might post. But if you think about it, that's the same kinds of fears that people had about email back when email first started. And obviously, anyone can send out a strange email or an email to the entire company, and it may not be, something that everyone wants to see, but those are handled through policies and handled through, through the understanding of your organization about what's appropriate to send out to your company and not. So I think a lot of those things are going to start, applying themselves to social content where people are contributing content in a business aspect. So I think we need to think about it in the way that it's just another tool for people to communicate. So if we take a look at this little sort of Gallup poll, 71% of American workers are not engaged or actively disengaged through their work. So I think that even a small change in that, in being able to collaborate or participate or contribute in a different way could lead to some larger productivity gains. And I think this is really, this is quite interesting because I know a lot of people that, organizations, when we talk to them, their intranets maybe aren't used, they don't feel relevant, employees don't like them, and it kind of adds to that sort of disengagement with their everyday work. The intranet really isn't helping that sort of feeling of belonging or being engaged. A lot of times the information architecture doesn't really reflect the activities and interests of your employees. It may lack a strategy or commitment from above to really make it something that is useful and interesting to employees. And, we constantly still hear, it's a pain to find anything on my intranet. So the model of that, though, is changing. So prior to, the sort of social movement, I guess I'll say, everything was pretty much structured in a way that, everyone has to kind of go hunting for their content. They have to go looking for something. They have to go look for the document that they were trying to find, and it might be in HR, it might be in accounting, and they can't really remember. And the model of the intranet is really starting to change to revolve around the end user so that they can actually sort of control what they're looking at, what they're following, what they're interested in, and have some tools to really help them keep all of their information together and trackable, and really sort of focus the intranet back to the user, even though there may be messages from a corporate perspective, really trying to cater to that individual employee so that they're getting more information. So how does SharePoint actually support that shift? So there's a lot of new features, and hopefully some of you out there have had a chance to see some of the new features, but if you haven't, we're going to take a look at them today. Some of the things that SharePoint has really focused on for the 2013 release are features that really improve that sort of my site experience. So in the past, if any of you are prior SharePoint users, everyone knows that the my site was a little bit awkward. It was a little bit, wasn't quite what people were looking for. Microsoft was really trying to get the right thing in front of people, but it wasn't sort of coming together. The My Site still felt really separate. It wasn't really connecting to some of the other content, and it didn't really achieve that sort of feeling of community. It was really just sort of an isolated record about that employee, and maybe they could put some of their own content out there, et cetera, et cetera. So the new features of SharePoint 2013, I'll show you, look a lot different than what you saw in the prior versions of SharePoint. The infrastructure also has changed a lot, where the search engine is really driving a lot of features and functionality for the end user. And I know that sounds strange to talk about a search engine in the context of social, but when you start seeing what it can start recommending other sites based on what the user is interested in. It can help with tagging and trends. What are people in the organization talking about? So it educates your employee on what other employees are interested in and are talking about. And then, also just giving people the capability to sort of follow information and keep things in one place so that they don't have to keep hunting around for the same types of information over and over. They can have one place where they can go take a look at the sites that they like, the information, the documents that they like, etc. So moving along, and we're actually going to jump out of this PowerPoint here. Just give me 1 second. All right, can everyone see a screen with a handsome young man named Terry Simpson on the cover here?
Yes.
Fantastic. So this is actually just a very vanilla Office 365 SharePoint, based on the SharePoint 2013 features and functionality. This is a really nice example of taking a look at all of the options that are given to a particular user for that sort of my site concept. And this is really sort of the landing for each individual user as they start their experience with SharePoint now. So there's a few things I wanted to point out. One is that there's this great little panel over here that says I'm following 44 people, 4 documents, 19 sites, 6 tags. So there's sort of a record of what I'm interested in. And if I click on any of these things, I can actually go to a list of them and take a look and get to those things quickly. So I don't have to hunt around in sort of a site hierarchy. That hierarchy still exists, but it's definitely an easier process. The other thing over here that I will draw your attention to is trending tags. Now, in 2010, the sort of managed metadata service and tagging documents and tagging content really came to life, and this is taking that one step further, right? So we are now starting to see actual hashtags like people are used to with Twitter, and we're able to see that these things are being tagged, and then we can actually click on them and see what content has been presented or has been tagged with this particular content. So this does a couple of things. One, it just shows you as a general user or a general employee of the company what's really popular right now. What are people talking about? And two, it just gives a really easy way to kind of dive down into those if you'd like to do that. Now over here, this is an interesting panel, and we'll talk a little bit about this in a second. This is a following summary of activities. So this page updates everything that you're, displays a lot of updates for sites that I'm following, for content that I'm following. So given that I'm following 19 different sites, there's a lot of information here, and it updates. So I can kind of take a quick peek and see if there's anything of interest that has happened on those pages recently. So there's a conversation that was tagged. Some of the people that I'm interested in are now following certain sites. Maybe I'm not following that SharePoint user adoption site, and maybe I would like to. So it's really, in a very passive way, giving me information that I can take advantage of if I want to, because there may be some relevance, based on other things that I'm following and I'm interested in. So that's just a really great way, I think, of taking advantage of that. The next thing that I will show you, so we'll go ahead and just kind of click on one of these guys so you can see. This is really great because not only are you looking at sites that you are following, but also you're getting a recommendation from the search engine based on these other sites I'm following. And on this particular site, there are many, many community sites. There's lots of different types of information out here. So 20 small sites, that's actually not that many, and it's a very manageable amount to kind of review and look through. But this is really great because it starts showing you other sites that you may be interested in. So, and it's all kind of working off that search engine algorithm. So that's something I think that, it's not specifically social, but if you think about it, it really is starting to draw people in based on what's happening in other sites, other people contributing content, et cetera, et cetera. So that concept is becoming more and more interesting. So I'm going to jump a little bit real quick into another tool that has been put into SharePoint 2013. So aside from the sort of about me and the profile and that sort of thing, is something called Communities. And what Communities do, it's not just it is a simple sort of elaborate team site template in a way, but what it really does is it gives the users the opportunity to join communities that they're interested in and also create a community. So it's giving people a really organic way to share information, whereas in a lot of other prior intranets. You may have an HR department, you may have an IT department page, and then you may have a few initiative pages, but those are either available to everyone and they're not really very targeted, or they're locked down by security and assigned by sort of your Active Directory group. So there's not a real sort of proactive way for somebody to go, you know what, I'm really interested in this particular topic. It's not necessarily that I'm part of the manager's, security group, or that I'm in a particular office, therefore I get a certain page of, office material. It's really about me looking at this page and saying, oh, I didn't know there were people talking about sales and marketing. Now, in this case, Terry has already signed up for this group, but we can take a look at this community and see there's 523 members, and everyone has self-selected into this group. So that's what's really nice about this, is that people are sort of proactively contributing information to this. They're participating because they want to, and the other great thing about the communities templates is not only do you have sort of this full discussion, again looking very similar to something like a Facebook, where you can reply to a comment and people can like the comment, et cetera, but also then you start seeing who are the people that are actually contributing and leaders in this area, right? So if I had some more detailed questions about this, I might actually just, look at Jason Bullock's profile and maybe give him a call. I actually happen to know Jason Bullock. He's here in Chicago. He's a great Microsoft resource. But, this is something that starts to organically show you your experts as well, or people who are very interested in a particular topic. So this gives you some great information. It gives people feedback about who to go to for what that may not be completely obvious in a title or a simple user profile. So again, it gives you a lot of great information sharing capabilities, and these community sites really are sort of a backbone of how you make your intranet more social from a business perspective, because it's not simply something that you've been assigned to or something that is part of your department. It goes beyond those barriers and those sort of normal divisions and gets into more functional or topical information. Another aspect of the community sites I just want to show you, and I'll try and find one that Terry's not a part of. Let's just look at Protiviti here. Let's see. Go to another one. See if we can find a good one for joining purposes. We'll go to Azure Tech Talk. And Terry is not a member of this, but he can simply join the community by clicking the button up here. So it's a very easy process to be able to join that community. Now, always, some communities are going to be more active than others, and some are going to be more successful than others, but allowing your employees to do something like this is a really great way to share information. And it's a standard template, so people are going to be used to looking at it and understanding what to add, how to work with it, etc. And really just kind of focusing on organically growing that sort of knowledge base within your company on different topics. So another thing that I think is really worthwhile showing and just kind of talking about a little bit is the search. So once again, it's sort of a topic where you're saying, how is search social? It gives you a lot of feedback when you search for something. So I'm going to search for scuba. And what this does is it gives me topics, and it's sort of the new refined search, which is really interesting. You can see who actually authored some of the content and refine down on that. So that kind of gives you that. Once again, it gives you some of the expert views on who is generating content about this particular topic. But then also, if you do see a particular document, a particular page, or something that you're interested in, you can also add that to your follow page just by clicking right here in the search results. So it's giving you some really in-context tools that will let you sort of gather your information, keep track of information right out of the search. And once again, it's just something that is another sort of little easy tool. It's a usability thing that makes this a better experience for an end user. And for me, I thought that was really great, just to be able to look at the communities, look at some of the conversations and discussions that were happening. If this is a particular site, you can visit the community, you can follow the community right from the search results once again. So this is just a really, I think it's a really great tool. It's a great way to sort of start connecting people to more and more content. The search itself, though, not explicitly a social tool, I think has improved the experience so much that you're going to see a lot of traction with people sort of finding content and then keeping track of that content for future use through some of those My Site capabilities. So I'm just going to jump back to the PowerPoint real quick. Just jump right in here. And we've actually gone through a number of these, so I will just pop up here. And this was something I came up with because one of the things I think that people get stuck on are maybe some old concepts and don't really think about new ways to use the tools that are coming out to address the problems that have been around forever. So some of the things, and you guys, we're going to obviously post this presentation and you'll be able to come back to this later, but things like using the About Me for a firm directory or for actual expertise and skills database, because people can update that information themselves now, and they're actually able to say, ask me about these 5 things. Those 5 things can actually be keywords that people can search on, refine their results down to, and actually get to somebody quickly. In the past, I know people were interested in developing expertise and skills databases, and it would take months just to come up with the list of, well, what are the skills that we're interested in tracking? This way, with a more organic approach where people can type and can hashtag things, definitely an easier experience. The team sites, again, that's sort of an old concept where it's a predefined thing based on your security or your Active Directory group or whatever you might have. Just sort of looking at a community as a different way to share information and publish information and have people actually contribute on a more regular basis. And then also just, people are very interested in building knowledge bases. A lot of people are, not necessarily entirely sure what all of that means, but a new way to look at that might be searching, tagging, and trending. So what are the topics that people keep posting about? What are the things that are most interesting to them? We can, again, you can take a look at that and download the presentation another time, but those are just some ideas I think that, are worth revisiting because they're concepts that come up, over and over again and have for a very long time. So there is one question. What about Yammer? It is something that people have been very interested in, given that Microsoft purchased Yammer and is definitely interested in integrating that into the SharePoint platform. Obviously, some of the community features that you saw, some of the activities and following is very similar to Yammer. So over time, the features inside of SharePoint that are currently existing, those will be replaced. There's not a super detailed timeline on when that happens, but even today in the Office 365, you're starting to see some references and links into Yammer, and over time those will become part of that SharePoint platform. So if we take a look real quick, we'll just jump back to our web browser here. And this is a very typical Yammer implementation. I might just actually make this a tiny bit bigger because it looks a little small here for you guys. And this is a particular group. This is for Terry, and all of this information is sort of captured in one window, in one area. It's similar to the community pages, right? Because you have some new messages, you have some interaction with people, you have sort of what are the the members, you even have who's online, what are the related groups. So there's a lot of great information that's all here in one place. If we go out to sort of the main page, we'll just click back here. Just one sec. Make sure we're in the right group here. You can see all of the groups that Terry belongs to, that Terry's a member of, and then that we have all of sort of the consolidated information about his different groups. So some of this stuff is coming from the Windows 8, some of it's coming from the VSP community or VTSP community. So everything is sort of consolidated here into one very streamlined feed of information. And again, you can kind of see, who might you be interested in following or becoming related to within this site, and then maybe some of the other groups that may be of interest to you. So, and again, we start seeing that trending files. It's a little bit different concept than the trends, but you can see where this information is definitely going to converge with how the communities and how the My Site components were set up. So, so it's exciting. It's in progress, and you're going to start seeing these things very soon. So, just wanted to at least give you a little flavor of what Yammer looks like, how it works, and then eventually, where some of those sort of overlap and synergies might be with the 2013 existing features and functionality. So that is actually all I had, and we're right almost up to 1 o'clock. So I wanted to offer the chance for Steve to hop back on and see if there was anything that that you might want to ask, or any questions that came in during the presentation.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Julie. And yeah, we have a couple questions. The first one is, are the hashtags connected to the managed metadata enterprise keywords, or are they separate?
They can be. So if there is sort of that managed metadata, if the word already exists, then it's not going to sort of duplicate it. But it's sort of that same concept as 2010, where it's folksonomy as well. You can create a new hashtag if that word doesn't exist. So if I wanted to type something in and tag it, and it's not part of the managed metadata, the hashtag allows me to sort of create a new topic. And that's sort of the value. If we're looking at, let's go back to Terry's page real quick, as it will eventually load here. But you'll be able to see that, let me go to the news feed, sorry, that people are creating tags. So this gives you an idea, if you have a very locked down managed metadata and you don't want people creating terms, then what you're missing out on is the fact that there may be, topics that are new and aren't part of your managed metadata that should be tagged as something new. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Great. Thank you.
One other question is somebody's asking about getting the slides. So Julie, if you could send those to me, we'll post those out there with the video for everybody.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I'll leave it open for another couple of seconds to see if there's any additional questions. Okay, I got one other question coming in here, Julie.
Sure. I will do my best to answer it.
With the ability for communities to grow organically, are there strategies or governance to ensure that communities aren't redundant or sprawl too rapidly or disparate when they should be connected?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's, by default, if you sort of just install SharePoint vanilla and let it go, you can, in theory, get as many communities out there as possible, and that could lead to sort of duplication or problems. I think that a really good strategy for that might be to put some workflow in place where, maybe when someone wants to add a new community, you have a couple people out there, whether it's from a communications perspective or an IT perspective, maybe monitoring that request. And if there's any issues, or maybe if that group already exists and the person didn't know, you could actually refer the person back into a different site. So there are some simple workflows and things like that might be of interest if you want to sort of kind of keep your eye on this. On that note, the whole point of them is to sort of really allow people to sort of develop their own specific, focused, targeted communities in this particular topic or a particular location or whatever it is, So, you do have to be careful to strike a balance that it's not just another site template that, you may or may not get launched, or it takes 3 weeks to set up. The whole nature of it is that, hey, this would be great if we had this, today, so we can start collaborating. So I think there's definitely a balance, and you want to be careful about not sort of locking it down too much to the point where you're preventing people from being creative and getting in there and setting these up. So, but good question for sure.
Okay, there's actually 2 more came in, Julie, while you're answering that question.
Okay.
With all the other social media tools and services, is there an aggregation strategy under investigation or in the works for SharePoint or Microsoft?
I do not know the answer to that. If you're talking about other sort of things like Facebook or LinkedIn and that sort of thing, I'm not sure. And Steve, I don't know if you have heard anything about that, or
yeah, I mean, they're doing that a little bit in in Outlook and in Windows 8, where they're making things more social, as in people-centric. So if you look at Windows 8 or Windows Phone 8, when you look at a person, or you look at yourself, you see, you tie that in, your login with LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and everything else, where it's starting to aggregate information about a person all in one location. It's a little different than the communities that we looked at, and what you can do in SharePoint, but that's kind of one of the things that Microsoft's doing on the social side, to make everything related to a person kind of aggregate together when you see that person's information, whether it's in Outlook or whether it's in on your phone or what have you.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thanks, Steve.
Last question. Is the suggested sites to follow option based off of keywords or more relationship based, like other users who followed X also followed Y?
I believe it's more keywords, but I would have to check on how that algorithm works. I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm seeming to remember that it's actually more closely tied to terminology and verbiage and things like that. But that's a really good follow-up. We could probably do a little research and maybe post a follow-up blog.
That would be great. All right, Julie, I think that's all the questions, and we are 4 minutes past the top of the hour. So I'd like to thank you, Julie, for presenting, and thank everybody for their time. We will see you in 2 weeks, where we talk about SharePoint security.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
The organizer has